All right, so why you're getting ignored on social media and how to fix that. I'm glad you guys are here today. Before we pop into what we're talking about, I want to talk about imposter syndrome, right? And why it's so important. And there's the biggest hang up that people have when it comes to creating social media content, when it comes to putting themselves out there, when it comes to building a personal brand and an authority for themselves so that they can take that and impact the world. So you are the sum of your experiences. You are the sum of all of the things that make you who you are. Everybody always wants to know what is their unique selling proposition and what makes them different from any other business that's out there, whether you're a plumber, personal injury attorney, family law attorney. You are the differentiator. You are the unique selling proposition. Your perspective, your experience, what you bring to your profession is what makes you different. So you don't have to search that hard for it. And so I think a lot of people, when they're looking at social media and when they're looking at marketing their business and their services and their products and what they do, they often get too caught up with the brand of the business and not necessarily the brand of the person. And as we move into 2025 and 2026 and on, you're going to notice that attention is currency, the social currency, and the opportunities that come from building a personal brand becomes so much more powerful than just building a business brand. And this means that, what does that mean? That means that if you end up selling your business, or if you end up going into another field or another niche, you can always bring your personal brand with you. But if you're building a business brand, you can't bring that with you. So, imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome looks different for different people, but it could be that little voice inside your head, the inner critic that tells you that who's going to listen to you, who cares about your perspective, what do you have to share with the world? And to that I say, don't rob the world of your message because of your own hangups, because of the things that you are stopping yourself from doing because of the inner critics that you have talking in your head. And those could be family members from the past, could be teachers and coaches and mentors and people and friends that have been in your life that told you that you probably weren't good enough. And if you're on this webinar and going, oh, okay, what is this about? I thought this was how to get noticed on Instagram and noticed on Facebook. I'm going to share with you today how all of these things work together in terms of how to create something that shares your unique voice, your unique talents, your unique services and products, so that people will flock to you and they will be attracted to you. Because if you're living authentically and you're putting out your voice and your passion, you're going to find people out there that resonates, and they're just going to want to work with you. They're going to want to buy your services and buy your products. So that's what we're talking about today, right? Which is why people are ignoring you on social media, maybe because it's non-existent, that you're not putting things out, but also could be that you're not really focused on the right messaging. And so that's what we're going to talk about today in terms of how do we bring your unique message to the masses so that you can be super specific about who you help, and those people will start to seek you out. And it's going to be a super powerful thing. And I love this journey, which is why I'm sharing it with you today. So your opinion matters, your perspective matters. And what we're going to do here is we're going to focus on how you help. And answering those questions through this process will help you get a little bit more clear about what it is that you're here to do and how we can shine a light on that. So there is a lot of misinformation about social media out there. Algorithm this, and what time is it? What's the best time to post, and which platform should I use, and all of this stuff. And I think people are getting too caught up with the analytics and the data and not necessarily caught up with the messaging and what they're putting out. Because here's the deal. If you're putting out good content, it's going to go to the right person, right? AI and the algorithm and everything that's pushing your content out to people, what it's doing is it's going, all right, who is this for? Who's watching this? And let's give it to those people, because their job. Instagram wants you to stay on Instagram. TikTok wants you to stay on TikTok. LinkedIn wants you to stay on LinkedIn. So if it continues to give you what you want, you're going to stay on there longer. If your messaging and your videos aren't quite specific enough and they're too broad and they don't really understand how to push it out, that's the problem, which 80% of the content out there that you'll see is falls into that category. It doesn't really have an identity. It doesn't really have a perspective, doesn't really have a niche. And so we're going to unpack that today so that you guys can get super clear about what it is that you're here to do. Once again, living authentically and understanding that your personal brand has a message, has a perspective, has a feel, has color, has music, has all of this stuff, and that makes you unique. And then people are like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to that channel for this. I'm going to get, it's the attorney that does that, or it's the plumber that does this. I know I always say plumbers and attorneys. But you could be a real estate agent. You could be a videographer, whatever it is that you're into. You should be creating a personal brand from it. So my goal for this webinar is to give you guys the keys to attract high quality clients. And I call this system the content into client system. And it's a 3-prong approach. And as a result of working this program, I've been able to 10x my business in 2 years. We've helped over 100 CEOs find their voice and find their personal brands. And, we actively work with several 8-figure business owners that are also taking what we're saying and implementing it to see extremely huge results. So I'm going to tell you guys a little story, right? Stories sell, and I really think that you guys should really think about your story and how you're presenting that to your potential buyers, audience, subscribers, followers. So this is my story, right? 30-year-old Mondo, clueless, broke, alcoholic, pothead. I was broke, hard-headed, know-it-all. I was broke, declared bankruptcy, terrible with money, and I was broke, right? Did I mention I was broke? And so the desire for me is that I wanted wealth and I wanted direction and stability and to make my family name something to be proud of and to get married and have a child and all of that good stuff. And in so doing, I did it all, right? I was a singer, I was an actor, I was a bartender, a waiter, a salesperson, a dance teacher. I've had over 75 jobs in my life, and everything I did was getting me further away from what I desired most. And so I just, threw spaghetti on the wall daily. No pun intended. If you know me, you know I have a podcast called Spaghetti on the Wall, which is how I live my life. And so, I started my production company back when I was doing acting. I'm still an actor, but when I was really heavy into the acting scene, I was on set and I was paying attention to what the directors were doing, the producers and the cinematographer. And I was like, I really want to do that. I really want to create my own projects. So I started my production company, Sketchy Characters, moved to LA. LA spit me up and threw me out. So I came back to New Orleans to make a movie called Bourbon Whiz. And I thought I was going to be a movie producer. So much so is that I printed 1,000 copies of the movie and I sold it door to door. And nobody wanted to hire my production company to do corporate videos because I knew that I could bring that storytelling aspect to the corporate market. And so I was like, why am I not doing that? And so what I did was I rebranded to Leduc Entertainment in 2016. And that year I made a whopping negative $1,900. It was awesome. So there's always a villain in every story, and the villain in this story is me. I was the villain in my story. Uneducated, self-sabotaging, blamed everyone but myself, had no operating capital, no plan, no direction. The only good thing I really did have that kept me going was my hustle and the grind, right? And so fast forward to 2019, married, had a baby on the way, COVID hit, and look, I was a one-man show, super overwhelmed, I think I did make under $20,000 for the year. I had mounting debt, depressed, anxious, didn't know what I was going to do. And I was just so overwhelmed in the process. And during that time, a friend of mine saw a social media post. I invited him to my podcast. And I asked him how he became so successful. And this is Lewis Scott. And, at the time, ran a $40 million law firm in Atlanta called Bader Scott. It was a personal injury firm. And he started a company called 8-Figure Firm, right, at that same year. And he was teaching other attorneys how to scale their businesses. And one story really stuck out to me where he transformed a nonprofit attorney from Orlando from $700,000 a year in revenue to $2.4 million in a 6-month period. And I said, something's up, right? What's going on over here? And he said, Armando, you can grow to $1 million. You just don't know how to do it. And I said, okay. And he said, I said, well, what do you recommend? And he's like, well, I cost $2,500 a month for mentorship. And I was like, well, that's out of control. I can't do that. But what I did was I made the decision that if I kept on doing what I was doing, I was going to keep getting what I was getting. And so I told him, I said, look, man, I'm going to go ahead and invest in my future and mentorship. And I started mentoring with him, and I started seeing what, successful people were doing. And success leaves clues. And as you start to hang out with more people that have things going on and that are successful, and if you can implement those strategies, and one of the things that he's always told me was this, the speed of growth in your business is tied to the speed of implementation. And he said, Armando, you're a video production company, yet you don't post on social media. Do you see how that's a problem? And I said, yeah, I do. And he said, well, what I want you to do is I want you to start posting, right? And so we started posting on our social media pages a little bit more regularly, right? And I had that limiting belief, right, that I was talking about before, the imposter syndrome, where I was like, who wants to listen to me? What do I have to say? I was just, I'm barely making it. I started this company. What do people want to hear me for, right? But I changed my mindset, and I realized that I did have a lot of knowledge to share. And I really did want to get into a position where I could actually help people. And I changed my perspective to that. I changed my perspective to, if I can share the things that I've learned to make somebody else's life a little bit easier, then that's what I want to do. And so when I did that, I started learning through the process of creating content. What's working, what's not working, how do I really start to share my story in a way that's going to keep people resonating? And look, we went through years of figuring this stuff out. And it wasn't until about 6 months ago where we really I had the epiphany where I was like, what's working here in the business? Well, what was working was my podcast was working. My customer journey was working, and my organic social was working. And those were the 3 biggest things that we did in our business to really help scale it up and really start to grow exponentially. And so I was like, if it works for me, should be able to work for everybody else. And so we put it in a package. We started teaching other people how to do it, and we started seeing how they were getting super successful. And I was like, dang, okay, well then this does work, right? So our strategies that I'm going to teach you today about how to get noticed on social media and really start creating impact. And in so doing, you're going to make some money and increase your top line revenue. So we're going to do content for your customer journey and customer journey mapping and what that means, creating a podcast for you, and then using all of that stuff to create content for your social media. So as a result, look, I'm up to 150, I'm going to change that right now. Boom. 150 plus episodes of my podcast called Spaghetti on the Wall. I've had incredible people. Pat Lencioni, author of The 6 Types of Working Genius, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Gino Wickman, who created Traction and EOS. Joey Coleman, who wrote the book. It just goes on and on and on. And that's a result of having my podcast. Been able to get invited to amazing exclusive events as a result of my podcast and organic social media. And we're continuing to exponentially grow our business. We're on track to hit 2 million in revenue this year. With the track that we are currently on using these 3 methods. So Here, a few other people that we help. Dr. Craig Green of Baton Rouge. We produce this podcast. Work Injury Rights. We do all of their organic social. You can check them out on Instagram. Haunted History Views. Tours here in New Orleans. They have millions of hits on their videos. And look, external and internal achievement. I don't say this as a brag. I just want to show you that if this broke, drunk pothead that had no direction could pull himself together with a 1.8 grade point average that I graduated high school with, went to college and dropped out of college. If I can do this with my ADHD brain, you guys can do this, right? Like, this is not a difficult thing to do. The difficult part of this process that I'm going to share with you is the consistency and staying with it. So let's roll. Here are my secrets. Secret number 1, customer journey mapping. Now, if you guys don't have, let me explain a little bit about what a customer journey is. You guys all know what a Domino's pizza tracker is. The Domino's pizza tracker, when you order, gives you a little update, right? Hey, we're making your pizza. Hey, it's in the oven. Hey, it's getting cut. It's in the box. It's on the way to you. What did that do? That started creating an educational component to the customer service. And what people totally blow past is the actual customer service aspect of their business, because they're so focused on top line revenue and they're so focused on getting leads to come in that they forget about the people that actually have bought from them and that are already in a relationship with them. So what are we doing with these people from the minute that they meet you, right? Through your marketing channels. Don't know what those are yet. Could be social media, could be ads, Google, your website, SEO, billboards, networking events, whatever your marketing channels are. Then you have what we call pipelines, right? And hopefully you guys have figured out what it is that you guys want to offer. And here's the mistake that most business owners make, is that they are offering all of the menu. Here you go. This is what we do. To somebody that has zero idea who you are, your authority, your credibility, your trust, your case studies. They don't know anything about you, and yet you want to feed them all of the things that you do. So what I tell them is, let's focus on the biggest thing that you're known for. That's your flagship product, your flagship offer. That is the first pipeline. I'm not saying that we're not going to ignore all of the other offers and services and products that you guys have. I'm just saying, let's not force it on them at the very, very beginning, right? So do it slowly, introduce them to the world, introduce them to your ecosystem, and then you can upsell from there. So we figure out what that flagship product is. And then from there, then we roll into, okay, what are the touch points on the sales cycle? Does it take 3 weeks for a client, for a prospect to become a client? Does it take a month? Does it take 2 months, 3 months, 6 months? And how often are you contacting them in a meaningful way so that you can get them across the finish line, right? That's your lead journey. Then we have your customer journey, which is like the Domino's pizza tracker. How are you educating your client as to where they are in the process? Then the post-customer journey. Then your referral partner journey. So all of these things have to be mapped out. And if you guys spend some time mapping out your customer journey and really how are you connecting with your client on prospects in a meaningful way, you guys will absolutely increase the conversion and the sales will be so much easier. Because what happens is that heavy lift of creating that mapping will help your client understand you a little bit better, understand how you help, and then it takes the guesswork out of it, right? How many times do we get to the sales conversation and we have to feel like we're like selling super hard when your videos and your touch points should be doing all of the pre-selling for you so that the prospect is educated enough to understand, okay, what's the problem that I have? Where's the pain? How do you solve this pain? How do you amplify that? And then get them over. And then once they become a client, let's not ignore them then. Let's continue to give them touch points to let them know where they are in the process. How do you service them? How do you deliver the product? What are the different phases? And here's the problem, guys. I will tell you what my problem was, and it was a very expensive problem because we had around 4 or 5 clients at the time that were paying us between $6,000 and $7,000 a month in retainers, and one by one just dropped. So I lost close to $30,000 like within a week, and I was like, okay, this is not going to work, right? I had 2 choices. I could fire everybody on my staff, or I could go, all right, what's the problem? Let me ask them, say, hey, why did you drop? Why did you go away? And they're like, Armando, you have amazing videos. You guys do this really well, but your system is flawed. I don't know what I'm paying for. I don't know when I'm getting my videos. I don't know when this is happening. I don't know what's happening with that. I just really don't know anything. And I said, oh, wow. Okay. If they're having that problem, then probably most of my clients are having that problem. And here's the thing. Most clients are not even going to tell you that this is a problem. They're just going to drop off. And then you're sitting there going, why am I dropping clients? It's probably because you're not educating them throughout the process, right? If you're a personal injury attorney and you're not letting your clients know what they should be expecting as a result of working with you and where they are and why they need to go to the doctor and how that affects their case and the things that they need to do to make sure that they don't affect their case negatively, like all of those things should be touch points, right? If you're a plumber, what are the things that they need to look out for? What are some things that I may not even know about my water heater? I know I'm going back to plumbers and attorneys, but I know them well. So all of that to say is that you guys have to sit down and you guys have to map out your journey so that people understand where they are through the process. You understand your business because you live it 24/7. They don't. They have zero idea. They have 3% knowledge of what it is that you guys do. Right. And so if their only touch points with you is when you send them an invoice and like the deliverable on the day, if those are the only two times that you connect with your client, you're missing out on hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue just by keeping your client abreast as to where they are in the process. And then the lead journey as well, like nurturing them through that process so that they understand where they are so that they can become a client. So here's the things that you have to think about. Definitely lead journey, right? Getting them to the sales conversation and converting. Customer journey, post-customer journey, and here's the kicker, guys, the referral partner journey. A lot of people, most businesses, I'm going to say 98% of all businesses will tell you that referrals is their number one way that they get clients. If that is true, which it is, why are we not creating relationships with referral partners that can open the door to a plethora of the clients that you want right now? Your target market, the people that want your services right now, that are ready to buy from you right now. Why are we not creating relationships with the people that can open that door for us? So you have to think about it and you have to map this out, because if you think that you're going to magically come up with these ideas spontaneously, improvised, it's just not going to happen. You have to sit down and you have to go, how am I reaching out to these people? At what point am I reaching out to these people? How many times a week am I reaching out to these people? Am I reaching out in a way where they are getting annoyed, or am I reaching out in a way that is a giving way, that I'm showing that I'm a resource, not somebody that's here to take? So I'm going to give you guys a few of these things. You guys can write it down. Leave your referral partners a review on Google. Go to ChatGPT and write out, say, hey, I am if you're a real estate agent, right? And you want to connect with mortgage lenders, go to ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm a real estate agent. I want to create an email that is a good a referral email for my friend who's a mortgage lender, right? It'll spit it out. It'll go, hey, hey, it's Armando, real estate agent, blah, 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 blah. I wanted to introduce you to my friend Bill over here, who's a mortgage lender. Amazing guy. Y'all should connect, blah, blah, blah. So then I take that email and then I send it to Bill and I say, hey, Bill, is this a good email that encapsulates what you do to my network? Let me know. If that's the case, then I'll start sending you guys some referrals. If not, you can change the wording. Dude, that alone, if you send that out on a consistent basis, watch what happens. Watch what happens. Invite them to play golf, invite them for a drink, invite them for breakfast, invite them for a lunch and learn. Ask them to go over their sales pitch with you. Ask them how you can help them. And then when it comes down to hey, do you guys know anybody that's looking for videography services? Or that's for us, right? Do you know anybody that is looking to build their personal brand? Do you know anybody that's blah, blah, blah? When I ask that, they're so open to giving me referrals because I've already given them 10 things ahead of time before I even ask for a referral. So that's why I say incorporate the 5 love languages into these touch points. If you haven't read that book, please read the book. Acts of service, gift giving, quality time, touch, words of affirmation. I have some clients that love to hug it out. Great. Hug it out with these people. Okay. So the result of you guys really focusing on your customer journey will increase your revenue. You're going to increase your Google reviews. You're going to not have to chase money down. People are going to be happier to work with you. Customer retention is going to be high. Referrals are going to go up. I mean, it's just going to be an incredible experience for you if you do that one thing, right? But that's not all. There's more. Here's a case study. Lewis, when we first started working together, he didn't have the confidence that he has now on screen. Time constraints were a problem. Volume of content was a problem. And so what we did was we batch created his content once a month, and we come in and we shoot 100 to 150 pieces of content in a day. And then he doles those out through the month, and we do this monthly. So if you're telling me that you don't have time, you can pick one day a month to focus on how to give back value-wise in video form, and it will most definitely help your business. Secret number 2. Here we go. Podcasting for profit. So if you guys do the customer journey by itself, that will be amazing. This right here, if you guys incorporate podcasting into your personal brand strategy, business development strategy, content strategy, this is so powerful. I can't begin to quantify the opportunities that have been afforded to me as a result of me having my podcast. And it is extremely powerful. And we're about to go into how, why, and what you should be doing. So my problem was I was dabbling in podcasts. I had one called The Wedding Minute. I had one called Juice that was supposed to be about entrepreneurship and stuff like that. And I had a concept of it, but I wasn't really sure about it. Here's the thing though. I just started doing it, right? And because I started doing it, I started understanding the process. And then when I got to Spaghetti on the Wall, it just clicked. So here's the deal when you're creating your podcast is that you may create it at first in this thought process, but because of the process that you go through as a result of doing the content, 3-6 months from now, it may change. And that is totally fine. It totally can, and it totally might, and you should totally be cool with it. So the thing is, you have to start, and it can be as easy as you getting on a Zoom call with somebody you know and having a conversation. It's that easy. And record it, put it on YouTube. That's your first podcast. It's really that easy. Don't overthink this process, because here's the deal. Your first show is not going to be the greatest. You have to get them out of the way. You have to go through the process. There's no shortcut to this. You can't get to Z without going through to A, B, C, D, E. You just have to go through the process. And it's a fun process too. Don't think about it in terms of oh, I got to go through it. Doing a podcast is fun. It should be fun, right? Make it fun. And how you make it fun is you talk about the thing that lights you up inside. right? The things that you're passionate about, the things that you want to talk about. If you pick something, if you're just doing a podcast because you want to sell something and that you want to have a platform in order to sell it, that's the wrong approach. It, in my opinion, it has to be an interview podcast where you bring people on, because there's the business development side of that. It has to be about the thing that you love talking about, that you're passionate to talk about. Bring in referral partners, right? And we can talk about this, right? Picking one day a month to record the podcast, batch creating it. If you're doing virtual podcasts, use Riverside. You can use Zoom. And then when you're posting the podcast, you can just go to podcasters on Spotify now. And then that, if you post it there, it'll go to Apple Music and all of these other places. Podbean is another one. Super easy. Use your email list. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't have an email list. Who reads emails anymore? A lot of people do. Our email list open rate is hovering around 65, 70%. And we use our podcast to push out to our email list as another touch point for prospects and for clients. I collaborate with guests, and these posts get 61% new engagement rather than all of the content that you create. So understand that when you're bringing somebody on to your podcast, you're now tapping into their followers. They're now knowing about you, and then they can go, oh, who is this person, right? That's how you get more followers. That's how you get more subscribers. That's how you get introduced to more people, right? Post a trailer for it on social media and then link it back to YouTube and Spotify and Apple Music for the entire episode, right? There's so many different ways to use podcasts to your advantage. If you guys start, and please start immediately, like next week, take the challenge and go, hey, you know what I'm going to do next week? I'm going to do my first podcast next week. Going to get on Zoom, going to invite my friend, and we're going to have a conversation, and I'm going to come up with questions to ask them, and we're going to just have a conversation. Why? Because you got to get those reps in. Got to get those reps in. That's all you got to do. You got to go in and you got to do it. So if you do this, you're going to get more listeners. We have 200,000 plus listeners, over 100,000 plays. We are in the top 5% of podcasts globally. 8 of our top referral partners come from podcasts. 80% of our, or what's that, 70%, but it is 80 now. 80% of our podcast are actual clients. 80% of the clients that we have now have come from our podcast. So do the podcast. Do it. All right. Here's Brett Thomas, another case study for you. Didn't think social media worked. Thought he had the lack of resources, had a fear of failure. I'll send you guys this also in on the replay, but talks a nice, he gives us a nice little review here that we tripled his business in 6 months. So secret number 3, are y'all listening? Okay. I'm gonna turn this. I'm gonna do the third part of this as ASMR. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. All right. Secret number 3, social media content. So, and we're talking about organic social media content. We're not talking about ads here. Not that ads are a bad thing. I totally think that as a marketing channel and as a marketing strategy, you have to have ads as part of the strategy. However, too many business owners are focused on the ads and they're not focused on the organic social. And remember, I was telling you, authority, credibility, and trust comes from us giving first, not taking, not asking. And if you're spending all of your money on ads and getting people to the table, awesome. That's great, right? But what happens when they visit your page and you're not posting any videos? It's just graphics. It's just still graphics. What happens when they come to your social media platforms and you're not active on social media? What happens is they go, is this a real business? Who is this person? Should I be doing business? People are afraid of making bad decisions, right? Buyer's remorse is a big thing, and they don't want to look stupid, right? By making a bad decision. So what is our job as entrepreneurs and as service providers? Our job is to make sure that the customer or prospect understand that we are the solution to their problem. But if we're just focused on ads and we're not focused on organic social, then when they go and look us up, it's empty. It's an empty vessel, right? And so that's at that point, and we've all been there when we're in a sales conversation being sold to, right? I was in a conversation a week ago of this company that was trying to sell me. And I was like, okay, this sounds great. And I won't put them on blast, but I was like, it sounds great. And I start doing my research and it's like, there's nothing, no videos, no Q&A, what are the case studies? Are there testimonials? No reviews, no nothing. So the lip service was amazing. Them talking about themselves and them selling the product was awesome. But why didn't I buy? I didn't buy because I didn't trust it. I didn't trust that they were the ones that were going to solve my problem. Right? If they were the ones that were going to solve my problem, then I want to see other people that they've helped. I want to see case studies. I didn't see any case studies. And so I didn't pull the trigger. And they're like, well, I thought you liked the product. I'm like, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Y'all don't have an online presence. There's no organic social. I don't know who you guys are. And so I sold them. So I ended up selling them. Anyway, and it happens a lot because I'm like, y'all's marketing is off. There's no organic social. How do I know y'all are who you say you are? Like, there's nothing there. So work on your presence, right? Well, can you help? Absolutely. But all that to say is I'm super ready to like make buying decisions, especially for pain points that I have. But I won't make a buying decision with a company that I can't do my research on social media for. So you guys need to do the same thing. Position yourselves as the authority in the space so that when people get to the sales point where you're asking for the money, they go, absolutely. I understand you guys are the expert. I completely feel confident in handing you this money. Thank you so much. Let's go. Let's do business, right? And it goes back to the customer journey stuff too. But the organic social is what's going to help you guys step into the authority, right? And that all stems from creating that personal brand. So same problem, guys. I have the same problems that you guys have had, right? I was not posting daily. I wasn't posting enough. I wasn't posting at all, right? Problem, didn't know what to post, how to post, when to post. And the solution was for me, I was like, just to do my research, right? And I went to social media marketing world. I started meeting with other social media managers, started doing my research, started getting mentorship, and I started getting best practices. And so through that process, and because we edit 500 videos a month for clients around the country, we have seen what works and what doesn't. Right. And so that's why I'm sharing this stuff with you. It's not because it's theories, because we do this at scale. We do this heavy for a bunch of different industries. And so please take this, write it down. What you want to do is you want to batch create your content once a month. You want to post every day across all platforms. And that's the important thing. I know people are, their favorite is Instagram or their favorite is TikTok. Not everybody's hanging out on Instagram. Not everybody's hanging out on TikTok. Not everybody's hanging out on LinkedIn. So here's the deal. Like a video you post on LinkedIn could go viral, and on Instagram, it does nothing, right? But it could do really well on Instagram. On Facebook, it does nothing. But on Facebook, so the stories go on and on. Our solution for that problem is create content for all of the platforms and just post the content out there. 80% of the content should be Q&A, in our opinion, because it's easy to do, and you're answering questions and you're building value and you're giving advice, right? Positioning yourselves as the authority in the brand. Post fun and engaging content, right? Stay on brand. Sticky headlines are a must. Listicles are a way that you guys can connect with other brands online. If you have a favorite restaurant, if you have a favorite software that you use, as a matter of fact, we had a software that we used, and they contacted us, paid me to do some user generated content based on their software because we liked it so much, and so we posted it on our social media. So another way to increase your income. History ofs, talk about the history of your niche, of your business, and then plan your calendar ahead of time to make sure that you have everything that you want to shoot so that you know ahead of time what you're going to be shooting on the day of the shoot, right? Result is going to be a steady stream of leads. Guys, right now, Once again, I'm not saying this to brag. I'm just telling you how easy this can be for you. Like we're in our CRM right now, we're sitting on 3,000 leads, 3,000. Like I'm having to hire more salespeople because we can't get to them fast enough. You know, you're going to get more referrals. Your messaging stays fresh. Something changes in your business, your followers are going to know real time what happens. You know, if you're we launched our PR firm when we rebranded, and people knew right away what we were doing, and we got a client out of it. So organic social media is where it's at. Okay. Case study, William here, hated creating content, was unclear about the ROI. And once again, this is a perfect example of when you start doing this on a regular basis, you start to understand it. You start to unpack it. It's like when you're playing a card game and you're like, hey, I'm going to teach you a card game. And the person's like, can we just play the game? And you're like, yeah, probably. And we'll learn as we play, right? This is the same sort of feel. You have to go through this process and to really understand it, right? Because the things that you're going to things that are going to happen for you organically as a result of doing this is going to be the epiphanies, the confidence that you get, the clarity that you're going to get as a result of creating this content. That's where the true power lies in this process. It isn't the pre-planning. It isn't the thinking about it. It isn't the brainstorming, although you definitely should have a plan and develop. But what's more important for me is the actual doing, because at the end of it, you'll get the analytics, right? You'll get to see what people are looking at real time. And it's not because you paid for it. It's because it will show you real time whether or not your videos are watchable or they're not watchable. Does that make sense? So I'm going to leave you with this. The story of Rockefeller, right? Back in the day, there was a gentleman that said, hey, I want to borrow $100,000. And Rockefeller said, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to give you $100,000. But what I am going to do is I'm going to walk up and down the stock exchange with my arm around you. And by the end of the day, everybody's going to want to give you their money. And they did. So what does that mean? There's a really good book out there called 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dan Sullivan. Really changed the game for me, because what I started to realize is that time is finite. We don't have that much time. So if we're going to be doing the work, let's do the work that's going to get us 10X the results rather than 2X. Why? Because we're spending the same amount of time. If you guys implement this three-prong approach to your business and to your personal brand, you will grow exponentially. Without a doubt. No excuses. It will happen for you. Why? Because consistency is key. And the way you do the things and the approaches in our strategy, it works for a reason, which is why I shared this information with you today. So please take this information, steal it, implement it, do it for yourselves. Do it today. Anything that you guys can do today to move forward, I highly recommend it. So my offer for you guys today, and it's super cheap. Content into Client Starter Pack. I'm going to give you guys access to my 7-day challenge, access to my Facebook page. I'll send you guys a webinar slide deck. I'm going to send you access to how to pick a profitable niche workbook, your how to choose a brand color workbook, my customer journey mapping worksheet, and then also a really nice offer for you as a result. So I'm going to put the link in the chat here if you guys want to go ahead and take advantage of that. And I'm going to open it up to questions. So if you guys have questions, go ahead and put them in.